Welcome to the EQ Academy and finding your life purpose in emotional intelligence. Now that sounds like a big subject, and for me it is and was all the time, because that's how it all started for me. I was researching spirituality and religions and compared all the different religions and put them together and did analogies on all of them to understand why we are here, what our purpose of life is, and not so much looking, like my purpose is to raise children, your purpose is to build a big factory, or my purpose is to change the world. That's all just the superficial idea on purpose. There is something much deeper. Why are we all here? What is the reason for our being? And why are people stuck in certain fields like hell on earth and others live heaven on earth? Well, there is something to it that we can maybe learn. And this clarification of emotions that we learn from the Vishnu Puranas was really powerful. It defines cause vibrations, cause energies, which are totally right brain, fight, flight, survival instinct, and they are worry, fear, sorrow, frustration, jealousy, envy, greed, grief. All of that is making you sick. Low vibrations, deterioration of the cell, shutting down the detox mechanism, shutting down all of the inner organs, nutrient uptake, and full-on blood supply for survival organs. This is something that is what we don't want. Whereas then there are feelings which are, okay to live with: boredom, lack of purpose, disinterest, aimless, if you go a bit further down, bullied and self-minimized and stressed and worried, and all of that is a bit further down, and then it goes into cause. But it can also go up into the heavenly fields of consciousness. Now, consciousness is breaking through and realizing who I am, what I'm here for, that I'm actually in charge of my environment. I am in charge of causing happiness and joy in my life, but equally sorrow and sadness. And then you go further up into gratitude, compassion, and love and purpose. And then the highest level is liberation, oneness with God, complete enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. So the 7 lokas, the 7 heavens, and the 24 talas is actually a concept that was used in ancient spiritual scriptures for many, many years. And Dante, when he wrote his play, Inferno, which is like hell, the description of hell, he used those translations and created from that his play. And when you see what it originally was, the different stages of hell, the different stages of unconsciousness and greed and grief and sorrow and fear, it described pretty much the different stages of emotional vibration. And Botticelli created from that a very famous painting, which was then taken up by the church and used to clarify and classify sin. And it was quite nice. The Pope that was involved in that whole thing was, where is he? Pope Boniface VIII. He was the one that was then classified on level 5. He didn't make it higher than that because he was really not integer with the church. So the church used this to clarify and classify all the different involvements of the popes and priests to see how they were located. But, and this is something that I found quite nice, when you look at the original writings, the original scriptures, and then you look at the translation, you can see that it's very man-made translation to have a certain impact. For example, lust was just on the 2nd level, and then gluttons and hoarders and wrathful and all of that goes further down. But then you can see the lowest level were hypocrites. Well, pretty sure the church didn't want any hypocrites. And then thieves and false counsels, and then going down, betrayers of benefactors. And that was, the church was the biggest benefactor, and betraying of that, betraying of guests, betraying of families and cousins, that was then the greatest sin. So it's a little bit man-made translation, but it shows very clearly that there are certain levels that we define as worse, more sinful, more horrible, and some that are less that are going up into the higher stages of feeling. Lustful is not too bad. And I think we all have that to a certain degree. But Inferno and the Divine Comedy, if you have the chance to watch it or to read it, it's really beautiful. It's very inspirational to start thinking in a different way about heaven and hell. And what it really came for me as a conclusion is heaven is not somewhere when I die and then I go and I sit on a cloud and like Aloysius sing and get bored. It's while we're here. You can live a life that is hell on earth, but you can also live a life of boredom and aimless wandering. Plus you can live a life of excitement and appreciation and miracles and beauty, and a life of oneness with God, where you appreciate and you love things for what they are. Now, for me, that's an aim that I see as a massive purpose. And that misses out one element, one unifying element in the whole thing that puts you either down or up, and that's judgment. Judgment of situation, judgments of people, judgment of anything. And that is what we learned in that whole understanding of the different lokas, of the different heavens. When you look at the Bhu up to the Satyaloka and Swargaloka, all of those describe the different stages of freedom that you gain and power and influence that you gain as soon as you let go of judgment. And the chakras do the same thing. Now, let me just go very short into something that I found the most connective factor of all religions. Quran to the Bible, Hindu, Vishnu, Shiva scriptures, all the Bhagavad Gita, all the Puranas from the Tibetans, they all say the same. And it's learn to love. Love your enemies. And this saying from Christ really puts it to the point. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be the sons of your Father who is in heaven. Strange wording, but that's how they talked. And it means that if you want to come into heaven and be at the side of God, then love your enemies and those who persecute you. For he makes the sun rise for evil and the good, and the rain fall on those who are just and unjust. He doesn't judge. And this is a very simple concept that you will find in the Bhagavad Gita. Judgment is the only downfall of mankind, where we, those who have no sin, throw the first stone. Yeah, you wouldn't find any flying stones. For him who has conquered the mind is the best friend. But for those who have failed to do so, it turns into the greatest enemy. The worst enemy cannot harm you as much as your unguarded mind. The mind, it's in us. It's our judgment. It's our misunderstanding, false conception, false expectations. All of that lives only within. And once we overcome that, we move out of hell on earth into heaven on earth. So that's the purpose. That's what we do. This is the only reason why we are in the spiritual department of the EQ Academy, to let go of judgment. And I found a way to do that. And it's actually inspired by Dr. John F. DeMartini, which is a dear friend of mine. And I love the way he conquered that. It's very simple, very simplistic. You learn to find the benefits in something that you perceive as something bad. After doing many, many exercises on my own, I actually learned to love everything around me, and it turned into a game. And that's when we developed Loving Cancer, where you take a cancer patient and you find all the benefits that come from the disease for yourself, for the environment, for your family, for everybody, how it influences your life spiritually, mentally, socially, all the 7 areas, and how it actually transforms everything. Now, if we go into a very basic thinking and we say day and night, what is good? What is bad? Well, the day is good. Night, there is shadows and evil and all the ghosts and all the spirits, and it's when the world is dangerous. Well, whatever you may think of it, but that's how it was described. The sun ray was coming up and was eating all the darkness away, and then the shade came at night and covered everything with darkness again. It's that duality, yin-yang, that you find in absolutely everything, but both of them are necessary. Both of them are really beautiful. If you think at nighttime for yourself, that's when your body regenerates, recovers, rejuvenates, detoxifies. All the cell healing happens during the night. All your organs go through stages of recreation and healing. It's also where your mind consolidates memory and resolves, where you learn, where you transform knowledge, right brain, into left brain, intuition and feelings. It is the most beautiful part that I cherish. I love going to bed, and it's sacred. I go to bed very early and I sleep very early. I prepare my bedtime, with breathing exercises, and I go into a very deep regenerating sleep, because I know if I don't have that, my days won't be great. So it's not one bad, one good. Both are necessary. If we translate that now into cancer, why do we need cancer? Why do we have such an explosion and rate going up to 1 in 2 people? Well, pretty simple, because we ignore many of the human physiology, toxins, deficiencies, stress levels, anxiety levels. I said cause feeling, cause disease. They shut down your organs. They shut down certain centers in your body in order for you to go fight and flight. So if that's shut down for a longer period of time, it starts to degenerate, deteriorate. Actually, apoptosis, cell death, is something really important that we need. Death is important for us to survive. When you go through everything in life, whether that's business, life, chemistry, we need that duality in order to exist. And that is what judgment takes away. You don't need to judge good or bad. You see both. And I know when you see something outside that causes your emotional reaction, that's bad. That shouldn't be. Thieves, they shouldn't steal, or violence, or this or that. But it's also based on you're not being involved. You judge something outside from what you've learned. If you grow up in an environment where you learn that if you're a good thief, you survive a lot better, and there is plenty of rich people who don't share their wealth, and the poor, they die, and you start taking, you grow up with a different mindset, with different beliefs, with a different education and learning, then that becomes totally normal, and those greedy bastards who don't share their money are actually the evil, the bad ones. Nothing is single-sided. Nothing is one side only, white or black. It's all shades of gray. It's all, like that. Everybody knows that one. But it's something that we can learn. And once you do, once you realize, and you see on that whiteboard, we have a huge whiteboard, and we start going through all the social field, the relationship, what has transformed to the good mentally, what have you learned, what have you discovered, what has transformed physically, how did you change your physical, how do you change your diet, how do you feel since you've detoxified, since you've got rid of heavy metals, We just build a treatment plan based on that, and all of a sudden you realize that cancer is a blessing, huge blessing. Yes, it is still a pain in the butt, and you don't wish it on everybody, or on anybody, but when you have it, you can turn it into good and evil at the same time, and through that resolve it. And that's to do with linking the right and linking the left brain of the hemisphere and unifying them. If you have only left brain, what will you do? Oh, it's good to have cancer and we'll die. It's okay. It's good to die. It's all great. No action. That's all appreciation and acceptance. And then you have here action. So married the two to equal measures means you stay relaxed and you act upon your situations. Great? Well, that's the goal. A lot of people come to me and say, Marcus, I don't really want to have a boring life. Like getting rid of all judgment takes the fun away. And yes, there is that joy, sad, and we swing from one to another and we go back and forth. That's all cool. I don't have a problem with that. I do that every day. And I swing into joy and then I go back. I eat something sweet and then I feel the repercussions of it. It's that back and forth. But if I stay at that level and never ever learn from it and don't move up to the next quantum leap, this is actually what we call quantum evolution. You jump one quantum, one evolutionary state after the other, into eternity, into infinity. But it is a beautiful process to grow beyond a problem, to resolve it, to have it done, not needing to repeat it. Drama of falling in love and being disappointed, falling in love and disappointed. Learning the whole lesson, what it means, how we create a happy relationship, moving on and creating a good one, a stunning one, a supportive one. Hey, I love to evolve. It's 10 times nicer than being stuck at the same repetition over and over again just because I'm too stubborn to learn. Okay? So learning is the main subject that we talk about in that process of moving forward. And that's why Mercury, mind, the thought, is called the child of the king. And the king is the purpose of life, the one who directs the path. They very, very strongly relate to each other. The more you learn about the spiritual life and about spirituality and evolution, the more your mind gets sparked and curious to move forward. And that's why we say life purpose is emotional intelligence, because it really becomes it. When we look at anger, frustration, disgust, fear, grief, anxiety, all of the feelings that are base, right at the bottom of the ocean, high pressure, very little light, very dark, thunder clouds above, well, that's what the feelings are on that level that we can transform with emotional intelligence, not into joy, but into peace of mind, understanding, stillness, clarity, insight, purpose. You can read them yourself. Really, it's a different state. And I found when I meet people, you realize their evolutionary state. You realize that straight away, based on their emotional reactions, based on their judgments, based on their involvement. And we call that also when somebody passes away and dies with that extreme spiritual involvement, like anger issues and resentments and all of that. That's what we call the earthbound spirits. They don't go far. Whereas if a liberated soul leaves, there is a complete, they have the possibility to connect with God, to leave and to unite with that light and that freedom and that peace that many of you might have experienced during a meditation. It's that oneness with the world, that eternal love that brings tears of gratitude to your eyes. And that's the state that you can stay then in the afterlife. But to get there requires you to let go of those emotional states. And that's something I will share when we cover this chart. This is actually my own creation. I've been working on that for a dissertation in Puri at the University of Jyotish. And that's where I combined all the classes, all the lessons of spirituality into that one image and make it very visual. And I'll cover that in one of our classes in the EQ Academy. Now, what's the mean result that you will experience when you learn to let go of judgment, when you follow the spiritual guide of all the spiritual leaders from every religion? As soon as you go into the state of peace of mind, understanding, stillness, clarity, insight, purpose, gratitude, and you live your life like that, what kind of music do you send out? There is a beautiful example. There were 7 monks in Denver sitting in a circle, and they were starting to meditate, and the crime rate dropped. It's the vibrational energy that those monks were sending out. That's the same thing that you will be able to do. As soon as you have that vibration, that's what we call a healing vibration. You have that peace of mind, you radiate that out, the world will reflect that back, either in their own healing, in their way they deal with you, in the respect they share with you, in the peace of mind that they gain within your environment. You get into a community, you get together with people, they suck you dry. Afterwards, I call them the vampires. You need to go and have a nap and have a sleep. They have exhausted you. Then you go into an environment of people where you leave where you have no changes. Some of them excite you. They bring you up. They make you do all sorts of things. And others make you completely peaceful and bring you into the moment and into the now. And that's the state that you will gain with increased spiritual evolution, increased emotional intelligence in that spiritual field. And to get that back means heaven on earth. It's a really nice concept, very simple. Print this chart out, put it in the toilet, on your mirror, onto the wall. And if you sit on the toilet and you have something to ponder about, something to be angry, something to be frustrated, you dwell on envy, well, see that as an incident. What is the situation? And then find all the blessings, all the benefits that come from that, what it wants you to do, what it transforms in your life, what it will change eventually. And go through. And you can always ask what has already changed and what is about to change because of that situation, and then go through. And that will give you a guidance on how you can evolve on fast track. Not slowly repeating the same problem over and over again. Actually consciousness, surface of the waves, consciously realizing what it means, transcending it, and moving into the lokas, into the heavens on earth. Right? See you tomorrow when we talk about financial wealth and how to achieve it and how to grow it beyond all boundaries. And I think then we're done with all 7 chapters and we'll come to a conclusion.